All right, guys, I just wanted to do a little fun college football playoff talk. We're getting the rankings tonight, of course, and we've got a little, 538 model here to look at and really digest. And I've actually thought of a few different scenarios that could happen that I want to talk about when it comes to this model. But just straight up making the playoff right now, what are the odds? What's the percent chance? We've got Georgia up around 82% chance to make the playoffs. That's due to the rest of their schedule, coupled with the fact even if they lost in the SEC championship, they're probably still making the playoffs as a one-loss team. You've got Ohio State sitting at a 67% chance to make the playoff. Of course, that comes down to the game against Michigan, but there are also other routes for Ohio State. If they do lose to Michigan, a lot of that will depend on what happens behind them, along with does Notre Dame keep winning to help Ohio State's non-conference. We've got Michigan sitting at 44% chance. Their season is coming down to that game in Columbus. They're not going to be favorites in it. If they lose to Ohio State, the big issue for Michigan is going to be that non-conference schedule. Very, 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 very poor. They had a non-conference game with UCLA. They canceled it because they wanted an extra home game. There is a situation, there's a scenario. Let's say they lose by 3 points to Ohio State. They can make it. It's just the committee does not want to encourage that type of scheduling. So it's going to be tough for Michigan if they lose in any fashion to Ohio State and they don't even make the Big Ten championship. It's going to be very hard for them to make the playoff. And then you've got Tennessee right now sitting as the fourth highest odds. They have 3 very easy games, and then they're going to be playing the waiting game. Georgia will be going to the SEC championship from the East. And Tennessee will be sitting at home and as a one-loss team. You would think right now, I'd probably say if Tennessee wins out, you're looking at around 50-50. They do have this little mock thing. Let's say Tennessee does win out, and it gives them a 51% chance. You guys can see with all these other teams like Michigan, 100% chance. Obviously, they're undefeated. Ohio State, Georgia. Let's say Georgia, get this, Georgia loses to Mississippi State this week. They're still at a 67% chance to make the playoff. That's pretty funny considering they are 17-point favorites. And then we do have TCU. And guys, this was the situation I wanted to talk about with TCU. TCU right now sitting at a 34% chance. Imagine they lose to Texas, but then on the road, but then they face Texas in a rematch in the Big 12 championship and beat Texas. I think TCU as a one-loss team who avenges their loss, I think they'd be in. Now, what happens around them matters, but there seems to be a narrative that TCU only can make the playoff if they go undefeated. I think if they lose to Texas in a close game this week on the road, and then if Texas makes the Big 12 championship along with TCU's able to avenge their one and only loss, I think they're in, guys. I do. I think they would be in that scenario. They're at a 34% chance right now. Clemson has one loss. There's kind of a narrative going around that Clemson's pretty much done. If they win out, I believe they really don't have any tough games left. Louisville at home. I mean, they're only 7-point favorites in that game. I don't know. Let's see what happens if we go for them to win out. It says 74% chance to make the playoff. So, I mean, you're looking at Georgia, either Ohio State or Michigan. That's 2 spots right there. Tennessee, possibly, the loser of Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, and then you bring Oregon into the picture. So for Clemson, it's very cloudy right now. The problem with Clemson, the quarterback situation, they don't look good on the field. That loss to Notre Dame was actually worse than, just suffering a loss because they got crushed, they got trounced, and they benched DJ again. It doesn't look good right now for Clemson in terms of real life play, which I think will affect them in terms of how the committee views them. You've got Oregon sitting at 8-1. I've seen a few predictions. I did a video yesterday. They had Oregon in the playoffs, finishing as a one-loss team. Of course, that week 1 loss to Georgia, we all know about it. Let's say they win out, and look at this, 88% chance if Oregon wins out to make the playoff. That's interesting. A lot of people think Oregon's going to win out. 88% chance. And guys, we could get another dreaded Oregon-Georgia rematch that nobody wants in a 1v4 game in Atlanta, Georgia, which was the exact location of their neutral site week 1 game. That would be a nightmare. Total nightmare. You've got LSU, of course, with 2 losses. But guys, the thing is, if LSU somehow won out, they beat Georgia in the SEC championship, they're in. Even as a 2-loss team. I know everyone says no 2-loss teams make the playoffs. It's just there's never been a situation where it would happen. With LSU, unless, honestly, so I guess LSU would be in over Tennessee because obviously, 3 SEC teams are not making it. The only possible scenario for 3 SEC teams to have gotten in, it would have had to have been Alabama. If LSU wins out, they could bump out Tennessee, I guess. That's what they're saying. USC, if they win out, they've got an 81% chance to get into the playoff. Wow. So USC possibly is in a win-out situation. Obviously, both Oregon and USC cannot win out. UCLA, 60% chance. And then you've got Texas here. Okay, now this is with the model. It's very hard to take this seriously. A 3-loss team is not going to make the playoff. They've got them at like a 50% chance there. Utah is a 2-loss team. They go up to, that's about right, around 1/4. What about North Carolina as a 1-loss team? 50-50, right? If North Carolina somehow beats Clemson. North Carolina's not even favorites this week against Wake Forest. They've got to somehow win this game first. Alabama wins out. They're not going to make the SEC championship, so it's impossible basically for them to be in. Ole Miss as a 1-loss team. I would be shocked if Ole Miss won out. But then, see, this is the weird thing with Ole Miss. Ole Miss would be a 1-loss SEC champion, and you're giving them a 33% chance to make the playoff. This model is wrong. This model is off. Liberty wins out. They'd have an 8% chance to make the playoffs. Baylor wins out. Or that's Kansas State. 6% chance. Baylor. Wow, they would say Baylor has a 46. No way. Are you kidding me? As a 3-loss team? Guys, the model needs to be recalibrated. The model is not correct. Let's go to Tulane, who's a 1-loss team. 3% chance to make the playoff. Yeah, let Tulane in. Illinois, if Illinois somehow beats Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship as a 2-loss team, 40% chance. That's probably about right. They're not doing it. UCF, if they win out, still less than a 1% chance. And then Cincinnati, still less than a 1% chance. So, guys, right now, there's some real juicy situations happening. The biggest question tonight, how far does Alabama drop? I'm thinking they go to number 10. What is the situation with Tennessee and TCU when you look at the FPI right now? They still have TCU all the way down at number 14. Is that going to weigh TCU down to where they will put a 1-loss Tennessee with their only loss being to Georgia on the road? Will they put Tennessee at number 4 and TCU at number 5? Could that this was last week's ranking. So Tennessee was number 1. They're moving down. Ohio State probably staying right where they're at. Georgia moving to number 1. They just beat number 1. Clemson moving significantly down. It'll be interesting. How far do they drop? Michigan moving up very likely to number 3. There are some people that think Michigan should be in front of Ohio State. Strength of schedule, strength of record, game control, all favors Ohio State. So I think Michigan will be behind Ohio State. And then number 4, we're talking about TCU. I think they go Tennessee at number 4, TCU at number 5, personally, guys. That is my prediction on what they're going to do. And then, of course, you've got teams like Oregon, who is going to slide right into that number 6 spot. And then we start talking about Clemson. Comparing to the Pac-12 1-loss teams, Oregon is certainly in kind of a different league than both USC and UCLA. And then how about LSU? LSU was already number 10. So how far do they move up from number 10 after beating Alabama. Do they move? I believe they were behind USC. I'm guessing they move in front of USC as a 2-loss team. Would they dare put them in front of Oregon? So, this will be a very, very, there's a lot of moving parts right now. And then you've got UCLA down here, Ole Miss as well. And most of these probably aren't going to change much. Will Illinois still be ranked? That'll be something to follow. And then we're looking at teams like, the teams we're looking at possibly getting ranked. Florida State, Notre Dame possibly inside of the top 20 or maybe at number 21. Liberty getting ranked after their win at Arkansas. They were unranked according to the committee. Oregon State will fall off. UCF will move up, I'm guessing. And you've got some other teams. Did Wake Forest lose? I forgot what Wake Forest did. They have 3 losses right now. Syracuse. Oh, yeah, Syracuse is going to fall off for sure. Oklahoma State is in danger of totally falling off of the poll. And then Illinois would be the other team in danger. Probably will move down to like number 23 if I had to guess. I don't think they're going to knock them off altogether considering Illinois is 7-2. But you never know. So this is all, good stuff to follow. Let's see what happens when it comes to I'll be honest, the whole making the playoff thing, there's just not a lot of context to it. I understand Georgia is definitely going to make the playoff at this point. It's just you look at their schedule, and then it's the margin for error is so crazy. Georgia would have to lose once in the regular season, and then they would have to lose in the SEC championship to not make the playoff. So that makes sense. Ohio State, again, their situation, they beat Michigan. They're going to beat whoever comes out of the West. If they lose to Michigan, it gets squirrely. Michigan, very similar situation to Ohio State, except a little bit more bleak due to their non-conference schedule if they were to lose to Ohio State. But I will say, if Michigan loses by 3 points in Columbus, I don't know, man. Would they really keep them out? And then you've got Tennessee sitting there just waiting. They have 3 very easy games. They are 21-point favorites over Missouri. They have to win out, and then they're going to sit at home and wait and hope that the chips fall in place. The TCU situation is really intriguing with Texas. The one other thing to note with TCU, after this Texas game, they're at Baylor. And I really like Baylor. Baylor is a really underrated team. I wonder if the committee will rank Baylor this week, guys. That's another thing to follow. I don't think Baylor was ranked. They weren't ranked at all. Baylor was not ranked, so it'll be interesting to see. Texas is going to move up significantly. They're going to move probably inside the top 17 after their win over Kansas State. Kansas State's going to move down. You're going to have Notre Dame in the poll. I highly doubt Minnesota will be in the poll. And yeah, so guys, we will see what happens. I just wanted to go over this quickly and kind of talk about the overall odds and stuff like that. This is interesting. Imagine Ohio State loses to Indiana. They would still have a 41%. If they won out, but that'd be crazy. 2% chance to lose there. Let's try and find a team. USC loses to Colorado. They would not make the playoff. Tennessee, if they lose, they're obviously done. But that's just kind of the situation right now. We will see what happens, guys. But that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.